if your immediate reaction last night to Michigan beating Alabama losing with one loss, having beaten Georgia in the SEC championship game was, well, I mean, you telling me that Florida State couldn't have put up the same fight as Alabama? If that was your immediate thought last night, are you on the ACC's payroll? And given how Florida State has gone about their business over the last couple of weeks and fighting the ACC on their way out, why would you even want to promote FSU at this point? That's an embarrassing level of ACC simping that not even I, somebody who is accused of being an ACC simp, can go. If you talk about the old days, funny thing about the old days is that they're the old days. But if this were the old days and I wanted to start maximum chaos arguments, you don't invoke Florida State, y'all. Florida State's old news. That's last year. If you really want to advance the argument, if you really want to get people fired up, you invoke Georgia, a team that crushed Florida State, a team that we are still trying to process. How did you lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game?
That's the real mystery.
That's the argument starter if you want to get people going.
They're saving, by the way. Also, I just don't think Georgia is great offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And they just scored 63 points. Cool, I get that. That game, let's take nothing from that game other than we saw this last year. Remember, Georgia effectively lost to Ohio State in the playoff last year.
Yeah.
But they won the game, and then that's when you saw them unleash the fury on TCU. So to Kirby Smart's credit, they did actually lose the outcome to Alabama, and then he unleashes the fury the next game. Because as you've said, Georgia is a little bit of like, hey, are we really motivated? We've done this thing for 3 years in a row. There's a lot of that.
There was that was their entire problem all year.
That shouldn't have been an issue against Alabama. I think they got outcoached against Alabama, to be perfectly honest with them. And Milroe played a great game against them. And I don't think Georgia's offense is at that type of level. But my real takeaway from this weekend was, honestly, I said it the day of. I'll say it again. I said it before. I'll say it to the end of time. If you're Florida State, the conference you're mad at is the SEC.
Yeah.
The school specifically you're mad at is Georgia. If Georgia had beaten Alabama, as they should have, and if they play 10 more times, they probably win 9 of those games. Then it's 4 unbeaten Power 5 teams. Those 4 teams make the playoff and play for the national championship. Not Texas, not Alabama, not anybody else. You're in. So again, the team you should really be mad at is Georgia.
I don't think that them getting run by Georgia in any way, shape, or form crystallizes an argument about whether they should have been included in the college football playoff.
No, there was nothing to be had from that game.
This is a classic case of multiple things can be true at once. All right. The result of the Orange Bowl, in my opinion, does not change the calculus of Florida State being in the college. They should have been in the college football playoff. In my opinion, they should have been.
Okay.
The games are supposed to matter.
Right.
You went undefeated. And if you start getting into the vibes and the semantics of, well, your quarterback and this and that, I mean, for heaven's sake, Michigan might win the national championship based on defense and not a great quarterback, right? Anyway. And while I understand when you're told the games do not matter and we're snubbing you from the college football playoff, I do not blame a single player for opting out. Even the backup quarterback saying,
I got to transfer. This is when the window's open. That's the part of it that's broken is this.
It is.
This calendar.
The calendar's stupid. You make fun of me for doing some Tarantino-esque editing sometimes on the podcast. College football's calendar is a Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
Like the end is at the beginning and the middle happens in the 3. Like it's the strangest thing. And that's where you have to fix it with the way the calendar works out.
Said's dead, baby. Said's dead.
Whose chopper is this? But here's where I think you tell me if I'm off base here wanting this. I would have loved it if Florida State doubled down in the way that Georgia doubled down to make a point. I would have loved it if Florida State went out there, everybody played, and they were going for 14-0. That they were going to beat an SEC championship caliber team, Georgia. That they were going to walk out of there claiming a national title, saying, we belonged. You left us out. Look at what we just did to Georgia. We are national title contenders. Make up the T-shirts. Have Ron DeSantis throw a parade for you because you know he'd be down for the clicks. So you do all these types of things, right? I'm disappointed that that's how they went about it. I get why they, quote unquote, quit, but I would have liked it had they had gone in and doubled down on it.
They had 3 choices, and I think either of the first 2 would have been right. They made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
So there are 3 choices. do not play in the football game.
If you weren't going to show up, literally do not show up.
Just say we're 13-0. You left us out. This is the NIT. We're not going to the NIT. You have a precedent. We're not playing. Number 2, you go all balls in and you say, hey, we're going to do what you just said. We're going to come out here. We're going to show you. And then they picked number 3. They half-assed the thing. They took a half measure.
Brutal.
And they got embarrassed. And quite frankly, it was Georgia's backups for 3 quarters in that football game that, Kirby Smart, as we've said before, he ain't one to mess with.